I used to think love was measured in years. In how long you stayed, how much you sacrificed, how many times you showed up even when no one asked. But sitting here now, in the quiet of my kitchen with nothing but the hum of the refrigerator keeping me company, I realize love isn't about time at all. It's about being seen. And after 76 years on this earth, 52 of them as a mother, I finally understand that my family stopped seeing me a long time ago. My name is Ruth Langley, and this Thanksgiving, I learned what it feels like to become a ghost in your own life. Not the kind that haunts, but the kind that gets forgotten. The kind that bakes pies nobody eats and waits by windows for cars that never come. Before I tell you what happened, let me ask you something. Where are you listening from right now? What time is it there? I love knowing that somewhere someone is hearing this. Drop a comment below. Tell me your city. Tell me if it's morning or night. Because connection matters even between strangers. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like mine, they need to be heard. Not for pity but for truth. I woke up that Thanksgiving morning the same way I'd woken up every holiday for decades. Early, before the sun had even thought about rising. The cold had crept into every corner of my little house overnight, settling into my bones the way it does when you're old and alone. I shuffled to the kitchen in my worn slippers, the ones Malcolm bought me 3 Christmases ago, back when he still remembered I existed. The kettle went on first. Always does. Then I checked on my sweet potato pie, cooling on the counter since the night before. Perfect golden crust. Just the right amount of cinnamon and nutmeg floating up from it. 52 years I've been making that pie. Started when Malcolm was just a baby. Back when his daddy was still alive and we'd crowd around a table so small our elbows touched. Now the table was bigger, the family was bigger, but somehow I'd gotten smaller. Invisible, almost. That pie was my contribution. My place at the Langley family table. Jasmine handled the turkey now, my daughter-in-law with her perfect presentation and color-coordinated serving dishes. Malcolm poured the drinks, playing host in that way men do when they want to feel important. And Talia, my grandbaby who wasn't a baby anymore, she made the playlists. Modern music I didn't understand but smiled at anyway because her joy was worth more than my comfort. Me? I brought the pie. Same recipe, same dish, same quiet reliability they'd all come to expect. Only this year something felt different. Wrong even. I hadn't heard from Malcolm in 3 days. Now that might not sound like much to you, but my son, he was a caller. Every other day at least, sometimes just to say, "Hey ma, you good?" But 3 days of silence? That was new. That was strange. At first I made excuses for him. Lord knows I'd spent a lifetime making excuses for the people I loved. He's busy, I told myself. Jasmine probably has him running around getting last-minute things. You know how she is about her presentations. Everything has to be just so, like we're putting on a show instead of sharing a meal. But that little voice in the back of my head, the one that knows things before your heart is ready to accept them, it kept whispering. Something's not right, Ruth. Something's different this time. Pushed it away. Pushed it down deep where I kept all the other hurts that were too small to mention but too big to forget. Like when Jasmine redecorated their house and took down all my family photos, replacing them with those generic prints from Target. Or when Malcolm started calling less after Talia went to college, like I was only useful when there was childcare needed. Small things. Paper cuts on the soul. But this felt bigger. I dressed myself carefully that morning. Put on my maroon cardigan. The one Malcolm always said brought out the gold in my skin. That's what he used to say anyway. Haven't heard that compliment in years now. I pinned a small brooch to my chest, the one my mother gave me before she passed. Combed out my silver curls and patted them into place. Even put on a little lipstick, the coral shade that made me feel like I still had some life in me. I looked at myself in the mirror, really looked. The face staring back was old, yes, but it was dignified. It was the face of a woman who'd buried a husband, raised a son, helped raise a granddaughter, survived loss and loneliness and still woke up every morning ready to love. You still got it, Ruth, I told my reflection. Had to tell myself because nobody else was going to. Then I sat down by the window to wait. The chair by the window had become my spot over the years. It's where I watched for the school bus when Malcolm was little, where I waited for him to come home from his first date, where I sat the night the police came to tell me about the accident that took my husband. That chair had held me through everything, and now it held me while I waited for my family to remember I existed. I watched the neighborhood come alive. The Johnsons across the street loading covered dishes into their minivan. Mrs. Chan next door greeting her daughter and grandkids with arms wide open. Even the new couple at the end of the block had family arriving, cars pulling up with out-of-state plates and trunks full of luggage. Everybody was gathering. Everybody was coming together. Everybody but my family. By 11:30 my coffee had gone cold. I reheated it in the microwave, the beep echoing through my empty house like a reminder of the silence. Still no call. Still no text. My phone sat face up on the side table, the screen stubbornly black. I started making bargains with myself. Maybe they're running late. Maybe Malcolm's phone died. Maybe there was traffic. Maybe. The words started to lose meaning after a while, like when you say something over and over until it's just sound. By 1 o'clock, I'd given up on the coffee altogether. Poured it down the sink and watched it swirl away, dark and bitter. The pie sat on the counter, perfect and untouched, mocking me with its readiness. All dressed up and nowhere to go, just like me. I called Malcolm. Just once. Let it ring twice before it went to voicemail. That's when I knew. When a call goes to voicemail that fast, it means someone sent you there. Someone saw your name on their screen and decided not today. Not now. Not you. I didn't leave a message. What would I say? Hi honey. Just wondering if you forgot your mother exists? No. I had more dignity than that. At least I thought I did. By 3 o'clock, the shadows had shifted across my living room floor. The chair by the window had become uncomfortable, but I couldn't seem to move. Moving would mean accepting. Moving would mean giving up. So I sat there, an old woman in her best cardigan, watching the world celebrate without her. That's when I finally understood something. Hope can be cruel. It keeps you waiting long after wisdom tells you to stop. It makes you check your phone one more time. Glance out the window once more. Hold your breath every time a car turns onto your street. Hope is what makes the hurt worse because it sets you up for the fall. I need to ask you something and I want you to be honest. Have you ever been forgotten by someone you die for? Have you ever been left out of something so deliberately that you could feel the intention behind it? If you have, type yes in the comments. If you haven't, consider yourself blessed and type grateful. Because this kind of hurt, it changes you. By 5 o'clock, I finally moved from that chair. My joints protested, stiff from sitting so long. I made my way to the kitchen table, each step feeling heavier than the last. The pie stared at me from the counter, still perfect, still waiting. Just like me. I fixed myself a plate. Nothing fancy. Some leftover greens from the night before, a piece of ham I'd been saving, some macaroni and cheese that had seen better days. I lit a candle, not because it was special but because it felt wrong to eat in the dark. Said grace out of habit, though the words felt hollow. Thank you for this food, Lord. Thank you for. I paused. What was I thankful for? The silence. The empty chair across from me? The pie nobody would eat? Thank you for the truth, I finally whispered. Even when it hurts. I ate slowly, mechanically. The food had no taste. How could it, when it was seasoned with abandonment? But I finished every bite because that's what you do. You go through the motions. You survive. You endure. Then I made the mistake of checking Facebook. I don't know what I expected to find. Maybe nothing. Maybe proof that Thanksgiving had been canceled, that everyone was sick, that there was some reasonable explanation for the silence. What I found instead was worse than anything I could have imagined. The first photo stopped my heart. There was Jasmine, smiling that perfect smile of hers, arm wrapped around my son in front of a golden turkey that should have had my pie beside it. The caption read, "So thankful for this beautiful life and our beautiful people. #grateful #family first. Family first." The words hit me like a slap. I scrolled through the photos with trembling fingers. There was my granddaughter Talia, holding up a glass of cider, laughing at something off camera. There was Malcolm, pouring wine like the perfect host. There was table after table of food, including a pie that wasn't mine in the dish I'd given Jasmine last Christmas. But the worst part? The comments. Such a gorgeous table. Where's Mama Langley? Miss Ruth didn't make the pie this year? They'd noticed. People had noticed I wasn't there. Which meant my absence wasn't an accident. It was a choice. I stared at those photos until my eyes burned. Looked for some sign that they'd tried to include me. An empty chair, maybe. A place setting nobody used. Something, anything to show that I'd been remembered, even if I hadn't been invited. But there was nothing. Every seat was filled. Every smile was bright. Every moment was captured and shared for the world to see. A Thanksgiving that went on without me, better without me, complete without me. My chest felt tight, like someone had reached inside and squeezed my heart with both hands. My mouth went dry. I set the phone down carefully, like it might explode if I moved too fast. Then I walked to the window one more time. The street was dark now, porch lights casting yellow circles on the sidewalk. I could hear laughter from the Johnsons' house, music from the Chins. The whole neighborhood was alive with celebration. And there I stood, a ghost in my own life, haunting a house nobody visited. Listen to me now, wherever you are. If you're blessed enough to still have your mother, your grandmother, your aunt, that elderly woman who raised you or loved you or showed up for you, call her. Right now. Pause this story if you have to. Because one day she'll be gone. And all you'll have left are the photos where she's missing and the guilt that sits heavy in your chest. Don't let her spend a single holiday wondering if she matters. She does. She always did. I wrapped up that pie in foil, every movement careful and deliberate. Slid it into the refrigerator next to the leftovers nobody would eat. Then I sat back down at my kitchen table, alone with my candle and my dignity and my broken heart. The tears came then. Not the dramatic kind you see in movies. Just quiet, steady streams down my cheeks, each one carrying a memory. Malcolm's first steps in this kitchen. Teaching him to tie his shoes by the back door. The night he came home drunk at 17 and I held his head while he got sick, never saying a word about it to his father. All those moments, all that love, and this was how it ended. With me crying alone at a table set for one. I folded my napkin carefully, placed it beside my empty plate. Everything in its place even when nothing else was. Then I reached for my phone one more time. Not to call anyone but to check the last message I'd sent Malcolm the week before. Let me know what time you'll be picking me up. I've got the pie ready. Read. That little word beneath my message that tells you everything you need to know. He'd seen it. He'd read it. He'd chosen not to respond. That's what broke me. Not the absence but the deliberateness of it. You can forgive someone for forgetting. You can understand someone being busy. But when someone reads your message about picking you up for Thanksgiving and chooses silence, that's not forgetfulness. That's a decision. I sat there in my empty house, the candle burning lower with each passing minute, and made myself accept the truth. This wasn't the first time I'd been left out. It was just the first time I couldn't pretend otherwise. All those birthdays where they showed up late and left early. All those Sundays I invited them for dinner only to get a last-minute cancellation. All those school events for Talia where they forgot to save me a seat. I'd been disappearing from their lives for years. This Thanksgiving was just when I finally noticed. Now, before you think this story ends with me alone in my sadness, let me tell you something about women like me. We might bend, but we don't break. We might cry, but we don't crumble. And when we finally see the truth for what it is, we do something about it. But that part of the story that comes next. Because first, I had to sleep in that empty house, wake up to that cold morning after, and decide what Ruth Langley was going to do with the truth she'd been served alongside her lonely dinner. If you're still listening, if this story speaks to something in your heart, subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because what happened next changed everything. Not just for me but for my family, for strangers on the internet, and for women who thought their silence was all they had left. The candle burned out eventually, but I didn't, and that made all the difference. I woke up the next morning still in my cardigan. Must have dozed off in the armchair, phone still in my lap like I was waiting for something that was never going to come. My back hurt in that sharp way that reminds you your body wasn't meant to sleep sitting up. The candle on the table had burned down to nothing, just a small pool of wax holding the wick. The room smelled like sweet potato pie and sadness. It's a particular smell, disappointment. Stale and heavy, like the air itself is tired of hoping. I reached for my phone out of habit. You know how it is when you first wake up, that split second before reality sets in where you think maybe it was all a dream. Maybe there's a message waiting. Maybe they realized. Maybe they're sorry. Nothing. No missed calls. No texts. Not even one of those careless emoji Jasmine likes to send when she's avoiding real conversation. The kind that say thinking of you, without actually having to think at all. I opened Facebook again. Couldn't help myself. It's like picking at a scab. You know it's going to hurt, but you do it anyway because the pain reminds you it's real. Their post had blown up overnight. Over 100 likes now, dozens of comments congratulating them on their beautiful family, their perfect table, their blessed life. Jasmine had responded to some of them, playing the gracious hostess even in the digital world. Thank you so much. It was a labor of love. We're so blessed to have each other. Family really is everything. Family is everything. I read that 3 times, each time feeling the knife twist a little deeper. That's when I noticed something odd. Talia had tagged me in one of the photos. Must have been an accident, a careless finger slip while she was uploading. But there it was, my name in blue under a photo of the family I wasn't part of anymore. I clicked on it, not sure what I expected to find. What I discovered changed everything. The tag had somehow given me access to a private family group chat. The Langley Family Planning Group, Jasmine had named it. Like we were some kind of corporation instead of people who were supposed to love each other. I should have stopped reading. Should have closed the app, put down the phone, made myself some coffee and tried to salvage what was left of my dignity. But I didn't. I read every message and each one was a revelation. The thread started 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. 2 weeks. They'd been planning my exclusion for 2 weeks. Jasmine fired the first shot. Are we seriously inviting Ruth again this year? I'm not dealing with her moping around the table. She brings the mood down and it takes forever for her to get in and out of the car. My moping? I tried to remember the last Thanksgiving. Searched my memory for evidence of this moping she mentioned. All I could recall was sitting quietly while they talked over me, smiling when Talia showed me something on her phone, complimenting Jasmine's turkey even though it was dry as dust. Malcolm's response came next. She's my mother, Jazz. For a moment I felt hope. My boy was defending me. But then came Jasmine's reply. And I'm your wife. Pick a struggle. Pick a struggle. Like I was a problem to be solved instead of the woman who gave him life. There was silence in the chat for a few hours after that. Then Jasmine again. Let's just keep it between us this year. She won't make a fuss. Tell her dinner's canceled or something. She'll stay home and do her little prayer thing. Post a pic of the pie if she asks. Do you understand what I felt reading that? My prayer thing. The faith that kept me standing when their father died. The prayers I'd whispered over Malcolm when he was sick. Over Talia when she was born premature. Over their family every single night. Reduced to a little prayer thing. But the next message, that's the one that broke something inside me that I don't think will ever heal. Malcolm had replied with a thumbs up emoji. That's it. That's all the fight he put up for the woman who'd raised him alone after his father died. Who'd worked 2 jobs to put him through college. Who'd sacrificed her own dreams so he could chase his. A yellow cartoon thumb pointing at the sky. I had to put the phone down then. Had to walk to the bathroom and splash cold water on my face because I thought I might be sick. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't recognize myself. The woman staring back looked hollow. Like someone had scooped out everything that mattered and left just the shell. I went back to reading. I had to know it all now. Had to see the full picture of how little I meant to them. The messages got worse. Jokes about me falling asleep at the table last year. I hadn't fallen asleep. I'd closed my eyes for a moment during their long discussion about vacation homes I'd never see, trying to find some peace in the chaos of their chatter. Complaints about my stories. She tells the same ones every year, Talia had written. We get it, Grandma, times were hard. Those stories were our history. How I met their grandfather. How we built our life from nothing. How we survived when survival seemed impossible. But to them, they were just old lady ramblings, background noise to endure. Jasmine complained about the smell of my perfume mixing with the Vicks I use for my arthritis. Said it made her nauseous. Malcolm had responded with laughing emojis. My pain was funny to them. My attempt to still smell nice despite the ointment I needed just to move without crying was comedy. Through it all, Talia barely participated. A like here, a laughing emoji there. But she never defended me. Never said stop. Never typed the words. That's my grandmother you're talking about. Her silence was its own kind of betrayal, maybe worse than the others because I'd expected better from her. I'd raised that girl when Jasmine was too busy building her career. I'd been there for every fever, every nightmare, every scraped knee. And this was my thanks. Silence. Let me stop here and ask you something. Have you ever discovered that the people you die for wouldn't even inconvenience themselves for you? If you have, type betrayed in the comments. If you haven't, type blessed. Because this kind of knowledge, it changes you at a cellular level. I looked around my living room then, really looked. Every wall was covered in photos of them. Malcolm's graduation. Talia's first day of school. Jasmine and Malcolm's wedding where I'd worn a dress I couldn't afford because Jasmine said the mother of the groom needed to represent. Birthday parties, Christmas mornings, Easter dinners, all captured and framed and displayed like proof of a life well lived. But I was background in every photo. Never the center, always the edge. Holding someone's baby. Serving someone's food. Standing slightly apart like I was already practicing being forgotten. That's when I remembered the envelope in my bedroom safe. The one marked Christmas surprise. I'd been planning it for months, maybe years if I'm honest. Inside was everything they didn't know about. The will leaving Malcolm the house. The bonds I'd saved for Talia's future. Even money set aside for Jasmine because despite everything she was family. I'd lived cheap my whole life. Clipped coupons while they ate out at restaurants I couldn't pronounce. Wore the same coat for 15 years while they updated their wardrobes every season. Saved birthday money instead of spending it. Invested small amounts that had grown over time. They thought I was just a poor old woman getting by on Social Security. They had no idea. The plan had been to tell them at Christmas. To hand them security, stability, a future built on my sacrifice. I'd imagined their faces, the surprise, the gratitude. Maybe I'd thought maybe then they'd see my worth. I walked to my bedroom on legs that felt like water. Opened the safe with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Pulled out that envelope and held it up to the light like I could see through to a different future. Then I picked up the scissors from my sewing basket and cut it straight down the middle. Right through their names. Right through my foolish hopes. I wasn't angry. That would come later. In that moment I was clear. Crystal clear in a way I hadn't been in years. They'd shown me exactly where I stood in their lives. Now it was time to show them where they stood in mine. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found her number. Michelle Carter, attorney at law. She'd been trying to get me to update my will for years, said the old one was outdated. She answered on the second ring. Miss Ruth. Happy Thanksgiving. Wait, is everything all right? I need to rewrite my will, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. Oh, I see. When would you like to come in? Tonight. There was a pause. Miss Ruth, it's Friday night after Thanksgiving. I can fit you in first thing Monday morning. Tonight, Michelle. Please. Something in my voice must have told her this wasn't a request. I'll come to you, she said quietly. Give me an hour. I spent that hour cleaning up. Not the house, that was already spotless. But the photos. I took them down one by one, not in anger but with purpose. Packed them carefully in boxes. If they didn't want me in their lives, they didn't get to decorate mine. Michelle arrived exactly an hour later. Professional even in her casual Friday clothes. She'd brought coffee and a kind of fierce compassion that made me remember why I'd chosen her. She'd been one of those kids who hung around my community center back in the day, doing homework while her mama worked late. Now here she was, all grown up and fighting other people's battles with law books instead of fists. Tell me what happened, she said, setting her briefcase on my kitchen table. I told her. Not all of it, but enough. Her face got tighter with each word. And by the time I finished, she looked ready to fight someone herself. So what do you want to do? She asked. I want to change everything, I said. Every last penny. We spent the next 2 hours going through it all. The house I'd paid off through decades of sacrifice. The bonds I'd bought instead of taking vacations. The savings account they didn't know existed. All of it reassigned to Haven House Women's Shelter. A place that took in elderly women who'd been abandoned by their families. You're sure? Michelle asked one last time as she prepared the final documents. I've been giving to the wrong people my whole life, I told her. Time to give to the right ones. She'd brought witnesses, bless her. My neighbor Eloise who'd seen me waiting by the window. The young postal clerk who always asked about my family, and probably wondered why they never visited. They signed where needed, making it official. When it was done, When my life's work had been legally redirected to women who needed it more than my family deserved it, I felt something lift off my shoulders. Not happiness exactly, but freedom. The freedom that comes from finally stopping a performance nobody was watching anyway. Michelle packed up her briefcase but didn't leave immediately. "What are you going to do now?" she asked. I thought about it for a moment. "I think I'm going to tell the truth." She squeezed my shoulder and left me alone with my decision. I sat at my kitchen table, the same table where I'd taught Malcolm his letters, where I'd helped Talia with homework, where I'd shared countless meals with people who apparently found me burdensome. Then I opened Facebook. The family group was still there, still active, still full of Thanksgiving photos and self-congratulation. I clicked Create Post and stared at the blank screen for a long time. I could have been petty, could have raged and accused and made a scene, but that wasn't my way. Instead, I decided to show them the same thing they'd shown me. The truth, plain and simple. First, I uploaded the screenshots. Every message from their private chat. Every joke at my expense. Every cruel word they thought I'd never see. Let them try to explain that away. Then I uploaded the photo I'd taken of myself on Thanksgiving night. Me at my table set for one, the uneaten pie in the background, the single candle flickering beside my empty plate. No tears in the photo, just dignity. Just truth. Finally, I wrote my message. This was my Thanksgiving. I waited by the window. I baked the pie. I dressed up. No one came. I was going to surprise you all at Christmas. I'd written a letter, prepared documents, made plans to pass along everything I'd worked for. The house. The savings. The future. But you made it clear. I'm not family anymore. I've updated my will. I won't be a burden to your photos, your dinners, or your legacy. But I will be remembered. Just not by you. I read it over 3 times. Each word was true, each sentence necessary. Then I hit post. The response was immediate. Within minutes, the comments started rolling in. Family members who hadn't spoken to me in years suddenly had opinions. Distant cousins were shocked. Old friends were heartbroken. But I didn't sit there watching it unfold. Instead, I went out to my porch and sat in the cold November air. The stars were out, bright and distant and eternal. I pulled my cardigan tight around me and smiled. Actually smiled. If you're still listening, if you've come this far with me on this journey, I need you to know something. Your worth is not determined by who shows up for you. Your value doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see it. Sometimes the greatest gift you can give yourself is the truth, even when it burns everything down. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the loudest thing in the room. But when you finally speak, make sure the whole world hears you. The stars kept shining. My phone kept buzzing. And for the first time in years, I didn't care who was calling. The buzzing didn't stop. My phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Notification after notification piling up so fast I couldn't read them all. I turned it face down and went back inside. Made myself a cup of tea with hands that didn't shake anymore. Added 2 sugars instead of 1 because I deserved the sweetness. By the time I picked up my phone again, the post had been shared over 1,000 times. The comments section was a battlefield. Some family members tried to do damage control. "This isn't the whole story," one cousin wrote. "There are always 2 sides." But the screenshots told the story better than any excuse could cover. There was Jasmine calling me a burden. There was Malcolm with his thumbs up emoji. There was the evidence of their cruelty in their own words, shared for everyone to see. Aunt Bernice, my late husband's sister, left a comment that made me tear up. "Ruth is the backbone of this family. Has been for 50 years. If you can't see that, you don't deserve her. I'm ashamed of all of you." Someone I didn't even know wrote, "This is my mother's story too. Thank you for being brave enough to tell it." The shares kept climbing. 2,000. 3,000. Each share was another person who saw themselves or their mother or their grandmother in my story. Women started sharing their own experiences in the comments. Being left out of weddings. Being forgotten on Mother's Day. Being treated like free childcare instead of family. But the comment that hit hardest came from Malcolm. "Mom, this isn't how it looks. There's more to the story. Can we talk privately?" Privately. After they'd humiliated me privately. After they'd excluded me privately. Now he wanted privacy. I didn't respond. Let him sit with that silence the way I'd sat with mine. By morning, my simple Facebook post had become something bigger than I'd ever imagined. 5,000 shares. Local news outlets reaching out for comments. My phone ringing nonstop with numbers I didn't recognize. But I wasn't interested in becoming a news story. I'd said what I needed to say. The truth was out there, spreading like wildfire through the digital world, reaching women who needed to hear it. That's when Talia messaged me. Not a text, but a long Facebook message. Grandma, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I saw the messages and I laughed along and I stayed quiet when I should have spoken up. I've been crying since I saw your post. Not because I got caught, but because I finally see what we did to you. What I did. I'm so sorry. I miss you. I miss your stories. I miss your pie. I miss the way you always made room for everyone at your table, even when we couldn't make room for you at ours. I know it's too late, but I needed you to know. I read it 3 times. Part of me wanted to respond to comfort her the way I always had. But I wasn't that woman anymore. The one who absorbed everyone else's guilt and gave comfort in return. Talia would have to sit with her regret. Maybe it would teach her something. The phone rang. Malcolm again. This time I answered, not out of forgiveness but curiosity. Mom, he said, and his voice sounded old. Tired. I'm eating breakfast, I said calmly. Mom, please. The post. People are calling me. My coworkers saw it. Jasmine's crying. You made your point. Did I? I asked. What point was that? He sighed. Look, we messed up, okay? It got out of hand. No, I said. You made a choice. You read my message about picking me up, and you chose not to respond. That wasn't getting out of hand. That was deliberate. Jasmine said. I don't care what Jasmine said. You're my son. My only child. The boy I raised alone after your father died. And you agreed to exclude me with a thumbs up emoji. Silence. Then, I'm sorry. I'm sure you are. Now, what do you want me to do? How do I fix this? That's when I told him about the will. About the house he'd grown up in that would now shelter women whose families had thrown them away. About the money I'd saved that would go to strangers who needed it more than he deserved it. You changed your will? His voice cracked. Mom, come on. That's extreme. Extreme. I laughed, and it wasn't a pretty sound. You know what's extreme? Planning for 2 weeks to exclude your mother from Thanksgiving. Making jokes about her falling asleep. Complaining about how long it takes her to get in the car. That's extreme. The house, he whispered. You're really giving away the house? Already done. Michelle filed the paperwork yesterday. He was quiet for so long I thought he'd hung up. Then, I was counting on that house. There it was. The truth under the apology. He wasn't sorry for hurting me. He was sorry for losing his inheritance. Then you should have treated me like I mattered, I said and hung up. The calls kept coming. Jasmine tried next, her voicemail full of tears and justifications. We never meant for it to go this far, she sobbed. It was supposed to be just one dinner. Just one dinner. Like my absence was a trial run for a future without me. By afternoon, reporters were calling. I turned them all down. This wasn't about fame or revenge. It was about truth. About all the women sitting alone at tables set for one, wondering what they did wrong to deserve being forgotten. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went to Haven House. Not to volunteer, though I'd done that before, but to see where my legacy would live. Carla, the director, greeted me with surprise. Miss Ruth, what brings you here? I have something for you, I said, handing her the envelope Michelle had prepared. The official documents. The trust fund. The house deed with transfer instructions. She opened it slowly, her eyes widening with each page. Ruth, this is. It's what women like us deserve, I said. A place where we matter. She hugged me then, this woman who ran a shelter for the forgotten, and we both cried. Not sad tears, but the kind that come when something broken finally gets acknowledged. If you're listening to this and you've ever felt invisible in your own family, I want you to know something. You are seen. Maybe not by them, but by others who understand. Type seen in the comments if you need to hear that today. Type valued if you're struggling to remember your worth. That night, I went home to my empty house that wouldn't be mine much longer. But it didn't feel empty anymore. It felt purposeful. Every room held the promise of shelter for women who needed it. Every wall would hear new stories, offer new comfort. I made myself dinner, a real dinner this time. Lit a candle because I deserved ambience. Said grace with genuine gratitude. The food tasted like freedom. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from Talia. Can I come see you? Please. I thought about it for a long time. Then I typed back. I'll be at Haven House tomorrow at 10 a.m. If you want to see me, you can volunteer. We're serving lunch to women whose families forgot them. She responded immediately. I'll be there. Maybe she would. Maybe she wouldn't. Either way, I'd be there, serving women who understood what it meant to be discarded. My new family. My chosen family. The family that saw me. That night I slept better than I had in years. No phone by my bed. No waiting for calls that wouldn't come. Just peace. The kind that comes from finally telling the truth and setting yourself free. Subscribe if this story touched your heart. Share it with someone who needs to remember their worth. And remember, family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when showing up is all that matters. Tomorrow I start my new life. And for the first time in decades, I can't wait to see what it holds. The next morning came crisp and bright. I woke without an alarm, dressed with purpose, and drove to Haven House with a car full of groceries I'd bought with my own money. Good ingredients for a good meal. The kind of meal everyone deserves, especially women who'd been told they deserve nothing. Carla met me at the door with a smile that could light up the darkness. Our breakfast crowd just left, she said. But lunch prep starts in an hour. You sure you're ready for this? I've been ready my whole life, I told her. Just didn't know it. She showed me to the kitchen, industrial and clean. Nothing like my cozy home kitchen, but somehow exactly right. 3 other volunteers were already there. Women around my age who nodded their greetings with understanding eyes. That's Margaret, Carla introduced. She's been volunteering here for 10 years. Lost her family to drugs and decided to build a new one. That's Susan. Her son moved to Australia and forgot she existed. And that's Diane. Her daughter-in-law convinced the family she had dementia to get power of attorney. She doesn't have dementia. Each woman had a story. Each story had a familiar sting. But their faces weren't bitter. They were determined. Alive. Present. We started cooking together without much talk. Didn't need words when our hands knew the rhythm of feeding people. Chopping onions, seasoning meat, stirring pots with the kind of care that transforms ingredients into comfort. The kitchen filled with good smells and quiet companionship. At exactly 10 a.m. the door opened. I didn't look up from the potatoes I was mashing, but I knew. You always know when your granddaughter walks into a room, even when you're pretending not to notice. I'm here to volunteer. Talia's voice was small, uncertain. Carla, bless her, didn't make it easy. Volunteers work. You ready to work? Yes, ma'am. Then wash your hands and grab an apron. Ruth will show you what to do. I finally looked at her then. My granddaughter standing in the doorway of a homeless shelter, designer purse clutched in her hands, looking lost in a way I'd never seen before. She'd been crying. Her eyes were puffy despite the makeup she'd tried to cover it with. Purse goes in the locker, I said, pointing to the volunteer area. Hands need washing. Hair needs to be tied back. We're feeding people, not impressing them. She nodded and did as told. When she came back, aproned and ready, she looked younger. Like the little girl who used to stand on a stool in my kitchen, helping me stir cookie dough. What do you need me to do? She asked. I handed her a peeler and pointed to a mountain of carrots. Every single one. Thin peels, we don't waste food here. She took the peeler and got to work. No complaints about her manicure. No jokes about the work being beneath her. Just quiet peeling while tears rolled down her cheeks. Let her cry, I thought. Sometimes tears are the only way to wash out the poison. The other women worked around us, giving us space but staying close. That's another thing about women who've been hurt by family. We know when to talk and when to let silence do the healing. After an hour, Talia finally spoke. I read the comments on your post. I kept stirring the soup. Did you? Thousands of them. All these people saying you gave them courage to speak up. Women sharing their own stories. Grandmothers who haven't seen their grandkids in years. Mothers whose children only call when they need money. Lots of forgotten people in this world, I said. I didn't know, she whispered. I didn't think about how it felt. Sitting at that table I didn't think about who was missing. No, I agreed. You didn't. She peeled faster like she could make up for it with effort. Mom and Dad are fighting. She blames him for not standing up to her. He blames her for starting it. They're both blaming me for not saying something. And what do you blame? I asked. She stopped peeling then, carrot in one hand, peeler in the other. Myself. For being a coward. For caring more about keeping the peace than keeping you. Now that was truth. Raw and real and necessary. Peace built on someone else's pain isn't peace, I told her. It's just quiet cruelty. Margaret walked by then, carrying a tray of bread. She patted Talia's shoulder as she passed. First time's always the hardest, she said gently. But showing up is half the battle. By noon we had a full spread ready. Soup, bread, salad, and yes, sweet potato pie. I'd made 3 that morning early, while the world was still sleeping. Same recipe, same love, different table. The women started arriving for lunch. Every age, every color. Every story written in the lines on their faces. Some came in groups chatting like old friends. Others slipped in alone, eyes down, dignity clutched tight as their worn coats. We serve with smiles, Carla announced. Every woman who walks through that door is a queen today. Talia watched me ladle soup into bowls, saw how I looked each woman in the eye. How I remembered names from my previous visits. Miss Catherine, how's your hip doing? Maria, did you hear back about that job? Deborah, honey, you're looking stronger today. You know them, Talia said, wonder in her voice. I see them, I corrected. There's a difference. She took her place beside me then, serving bread with shaking hands. But she smiled. She made eye contact. She tried. One woman, probably my age, stopped at our station. She looked at me for a long moment then said, "You're the Facebook grandmother." I nodded. "Thank you," she said simply. "My daughter saw your post. Called me for the first time in 2 years. We're having coffee next week." After she moved on, Talia was crying again. "Grandma, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." "I know," I said. And I did. But knowing and forgiving are different things. Forgiveness takes time. Trust takes longer. We served 47 women that day. Each one got a full plate, a kind word, a moment of being seen. When the last one left, we cleaned in the same rhythm we'd cooked. Talia stayed for all of it, washing dishes until her fancy clothes were soaked, wiping tables until her back hurt. "Same time next week?" Carla asked her. Talia looked at me. I kept my face neutral. This had to be her choice. "Yes," she said. "If Grandma will have me." "We'll see," I said. It wasn't yes. It wasn't no. It was truth. In the parking lot, Talia hovered by my car. "The house," she started. "Dad told me about the will." "Good. It's not about the money," she said quickly. "I mean, yes, they're freaking out about the money. But I meant the memories. All our memories are in that house." "No," I said, unlocking my car. "Your memories are in your head and your heart. The house is just walls and a roof. And soon it'll shelter women who need it more than you'll miss it." She nodded, tears fresh again. "Will you? Could we start over? Maybe have tea sometime?" I thought about her letter. Her request for tea with no promises. "I have tea every Thursday at 3 p.m., I said. "Have for years. You used to know that." "I remember," she whispered. "We'll see if you remember this Thursday," I said and drove away. Listen, wherever you are, whatever brought you to this story, I need you to understand something. Forgiveness isn't a gift you give someone who hurt you. It's a gift you give yourself. But it doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending. And it sure doesn't mean giving them the power to hurt you again. That night, alone in my house that would soon belong to other forgotten women, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Whole. Not because my family had come crawling back. Not because my post had gone viral. But because I'd finally chosen myself. I made tea in my good china. Lit a candle because I deserved the light. And smiled, really smiled for the first time since Thanksgiving. If this story resonated with you, if you see yourself or someone you love in these words, share it. Subscribe. Comment below with your own story. Because every woman waiting by a window needs to know she can stop waiting and start living. The world is full of tables. Some will have a place set for you. Others won't. But you know what? You can always build your own table. And choose who deserves to sit at it. Next Thursday at 3 p.m. I'll make tea. Maybe Talia will show up. Maybe she won't. Either way, I'll drink from my good china and toast to all the women who finally learned their worth isn't measured in other people's invitations. You matter. You always have. Even when they forgot to tell you. Thursday came with a cold rain that matched my mood. Not sad exactly, but contemplative. The kind of weather that makes you think about choices and consequences, and the long road between hurting and healing. I set up for tea the way I always did. Good china, the one with tiny roses painted on the rim. Cloth napkins because paper ones felt like giving up. A small plate of cookies store-bought because my baking energy went to Haven House now. Everything just so, not for Talia but for me. I deserved beauty whether anyone showed up to share it or not. 3 p.m. came and went. The tea steeped. The rain drummed against the windows. I poured myself a cup and settled into my chair. The one by the window where I'd waited on Thanksgiving. But I wasn't waiting now. I was just sitting. There's a difference. 3:17 a knock. Soft, hesitant. The kind of knock that knows it's late. I took my time getting to the door. Let her stand in the rain a moment longer. When I opened it, Talia stood there soaked, no umbrella, holding a bakery box. "I'm late," she said. "Yes. I couldn't find parking. Then I couldn't decide if I should come at all. Then I sat in the car for 15 minutes trying to figure out what to say." "And what did you decide?" She lifted the box. "I decided to bring pie. From scratch. I made it myself. It's probably terrible. I had to call my roommate 3 times just to figure out the crust." I looked at this granddaughter of mine, standing in my doorway with rain dripping off her nose and hope in her eyes. "Shoes off," I said, stepping aside. "You'll track water everywhere." She practically fell over herself getting inside, juggling the pie box while trying to toe off her soaked sneakers. I handed her a towel and pointed to the bathroom. "Dry off. There's a robe on the back of the door if you need it." While she was gone, I set another place at the table. Put her pie on my good serving plate, even though I could see through the box that the crust was lopsided. Made fresh tea because the first pot had gone lukewarm. Small graces for a granddaughter trying to find her way back. She emerged wearing my old blue robe, looking younger than her 23 years. Sat down across from me like she was afraid the chair might break. "The pie looks terrible," she said, gesturing at her creation. It did. Burnt edges, sunken middle, crust that looked like it had been through a war. "Yes," I agreed. "It does." She laughed then, surprised. "You're not going to lie to make me feel better?" "No. You want lies, go back to your parents' table." Her face fell a little at that, but she nodded. "Fair." I cut us each a slice of her disaster pie. Took a bite. It was awful. Too sweet, too salty, somehow both undercooked and burnt. But she'd made it. For me. That counted for something. "Tell me about Haven House," she said, forcing down her own bite with a grimace. So I did. Told her about Margaret and Susan and Diane. About the women who came for meals and stayed for dignity. About how Carla was planning to use my house to create transitional housing for elderly women getting back on their feet. "It's perfect," Talia said when I finished. "The house, I mean. It should go to them. Your parents don't feel that way." She snorted. "Dad's been pricing condos he can't afford. Mom's been rage baking. The kitchen looks like a bakery exploded. But she won't admit she's upset about losing the house. Says it's about the principle." "And what principle is that?" "That family should come first." She said it with the kind of irony that told me she understood the hypocrisy. "Mom keeps saying you betrayed the family. Dad just walks around looking like someone stole his future." "Someone did," I said simply. "Him." We sat in silence then. Rain pattering against the windows. Terrible pie between us like evidence of effort. Finally Talia spoke again. "I've been thinking about Thanksgiving. Not just this one. All of them. How you always brought the pie. Always sat in the same spot. Always helped clean up even though Mom said to leave it." "Old habits," I said. "No." She shook her head. "Love. It was love, and we treated it like an obligation. Now that was growth. I poured her more tea, watched her wrap her hands around the cup like she needed its warmth. I want to earn my way back, she said quietly. Not to the will. I don't care about that. Well, that's not true. I care. But not the way you think. I care because it means you don't think I deserve to be part of your legacy. And you're right. I don't. Not yet. And how do you plan to earn it? By showing up. Every Thursday for tea. Every Saturday at Haven House. Every time you need someone to see you instead of looking through you. That's a big commitment for someone who couldn't even defend her grandmother in a group chat. She flinched but didn't look away. Yes, it is. But I figure if you could show up for 23 years of my life, I can show up for whatever years you have left. Whatever years I have left. Young people always think old age is a countdown clock. But I felt more alive at 76 than I had at 56, when I was still pretending family meant accepting disrespect with a smile. Every Thursday, I said. 3 p.m. sharp. You're late, you wait outside. You missed 2 in a row, we're done. Yes, ma'am. And Haven House isn't a photo opportunity. You work. You sweat. You serve without posting about it. I already deleted my Instagram, she said. Couldn't stand looking at all those Thanksgiving photos knowing what we did. We finished our tea in comfortable quiet. When she got up to leave, wearing her still damp clothes because pride mattered more than comfort, she paused at the door. Grandma? What you did, posting everything. It was brave. No, I corrected. It was necessary. Brave would have been doing it years ago. She left then, walking to her car through the rain. I watched from my window, but this time I wasn't waiting for anything. Just witnessing. Just being present in my own life. That night Malcolm called. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Talia came by, he said without preamble. Did she? Said you're making her earn her way back. Said she's going to volunteer every week and have tea every Thursday. That's her choice. Mom. He paused and I could hear him struggling. I want to fix this. Some things can't be fixed, Malcolm. Some things can only be acknowledged. I acknowledged it. I said I was sorry. No. You said you were sorry people saw the messages. You said you were sorry about losing the house. You haven't said you're sorry for reading my message about Thanksgiving and choosing to ignore it. You haven't said you're sorry for agreeing to exclude me with an emoji. Silence. Then. I'm 47 years old and I still don't know how to stand up to my wife. Then maybe it's time you learned. She's threatening divorce if I don't fix this. Says I chose you over her by not making you take down the post. I laughed, actually laughed. I'm not on Facebook anymore, son. Haven't been since that night. Whatever's happening with that post, it's beyond my control now. Just like your marriage. You're enjoying this, he accused. No. I'm surviving this. There's a difference. I hung up then. Maybe it was petty, but I'd earned a little pettiness after a lifetime of turning the other cheek. The weeks that followed fell into a rhythm. Thursdays with Talia, who showed up rain or shine, always 5 minutes early now. Saturdays at Haven House, where she learned to cook for crowds and serve with genuine warmth. Slowly, carefully, we built something new. Not what we'd had before, but something more honest. She told me things during those teas. How Jasmine had rewritten the Thanksgiving story for her friends, claiming I'd been invited but chose not to come. How Malcolm had started therapy but spent most sessions complaining about losing his inheritance. How their marriage was hanging by a thread made of blame and bitterness. Do you feel guilty? Talia asked one Thursday about a month after that first tea. For what? For breaking up their marriage. I set down my cup carefully. Child, I didn't break anything. I just stopped letting them use me as glue. If you're listening to this and you're holding a family together by letting them hurt you, hear me now. You are not glue. You are not a bridge for other people to walk on. You are not obligated to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Christmas came and went. I spent it at Haven House, serving dinner to women who understood that family is about choice, not chromosomes. Talia joined me, wearing an apron I'd embroidered with her name. Progress. Malcolm sent a card. Generic store-bought, signed the Langleys like I didn't know who they were. No personal message. No acknowledgement of the empty chair at their table. Just a signature and a stamp, duty done. I used it as a coaster for my tea. January brought news that surprised everyone but me. The Facebook post had caught the attention of a nonprofit organization that advocated for elder rights. They wanted to use my story with permission for a campaign about family abandonment. They offered a small payment. I donated it to Haven House. But more importantly, they connected me with other women like me. Grandmothers, mothers, aunts who'd been erased from family photos and excluded from family gatherings. We started meeting monthly, sharing stories and strength over coffee and decent pie. You started something, Carla told me one day, showing me letters from women across the country who'd seen the post. You gave them permission to stop being silent. That's when I understood. My story wasn't just mine. It belonged to every woman who'd ever been told she was too much or not enough. Every grandmother who'd been relegated to the kids' table of life. Every mother who'd been thanked for their sacrifice by being sacrificed. Type heard in the comments if this resonates. Type seen if you felt invisible. Type the name of someone who needs to hear this story. Because silence is what lets this keep happening. February arrived with unexpected warmth. Talia had become a fixture at Haven House, known for her terrible jokes and excellent vegetable chopping skills. She'd even started teaching computer classes to some of the residents, helping them connect with resources and distant family members who still cared. I got a call today, she told me over Thursday tea. From Dad. I waited. He wants to know if you'd consider putting the house in a trust that would let them live there but still go to Haven House when they die. No. That's what I told him. She smiled sadly. He said I'm choosing you over them. I said no, I'm choosing right over wrong. My granddaughter finally finding her backbone. It had only taken public humiliation and the loss of an inheritance to get there, but growth is growth. They're getting divorced, she added quietly. Mom filed last week. I'm sorry, I said and meant it. Not sorry for my actions, but sorry that Malcolm had chosen comfort over character for so long that his life had built on a foundation of cowardice. Don't be. They've been unhappy for years. Mom liked controlling him. Dad liked being controlled because it meant he didn't have to make hard choices. Except he did make a choice, didn't he? He chose her over you. And now he has neither. We sat with that truth between us, heavy and undeniable. March marked a year since the Thanksgiving that changed everything. I stood in my kitchen, packing up the last of my belongings. The house would officially transfer to Haven House next month. I was moving to a smaller apartment, 1 floor, no stairs, closer to the shelter where I now spent most of my time. Every box I packed felt like freedom. Every room I emptied felt like release. This house had held so much life, so much pain, so much waiting. Now it would hold hope for women who needed it more than I needed the memories. Talia helped pack, wrapping dishes in newspaper, labeling boxes with her newfound neat handwriting. She'd changed in the months since that first awful pie. Quieter, more thoughtful, less concerned with appearances and more concerned with actions. I love you, Grandma, she said suddenly, holding my wedding china. I know, I said. Do you love me? She asked, vulnerable as that girl in the rain. I'm learning to again, I told her honestly. Love isn't just a feeling. It's a choice. And I'm choosing to try. She nodded, understanding that some bridges take time to rebuild, one plank at a time. The doorbell rang then. We weren't expecting anyone. I opened it to find Malcolm standing there, looking older than his years. Grayer. Thinner. Worn down by the weight of his choices. Can I come in? He asked. I stepped aside. He entered the house he'd grown up in, looking around at the boxes and bare walls like he was seeing it for the first time. I'm in therapy, he said without preamble. Real therapy. Not just complaining about you and Jasmine. Actually working on why I couldn't stand up for the woman who raised me. Good, I said. I'm sorry, he continued. Not sorry you posted. Not sorry about the house. Sorry I read your message and chose to ignore it. Sorry I let Jasmine speak about you that way. Sorry I agreed with an emoji instead of fighting for you. Sorry I made you feel invisible when you've been the most visible, constant person in my life. I let his words settle, testing their weight. Okay, I said finally. Okay. I hear you. I believe you're sorry. But sorry doesn't rebuild trust. Sorry doesn't erase the image of me sitting alone on Thanksgiving, while you all laughed around a full table. He nodded, tears in his eyes. I know. My therapist says I need to accept that. That forgiveness isn't owed, it's earned. Smart therapist. Can I? He started, then stopped. Would you consider letting me help you move? Not to fix things. Just to help. To show up. I looked at my son, this man I'd raised who'd lost his way so completely. You can help load boxes, I said. Nothing more. Not yet. It was something. Not much, but something. The move happened on a sunny Saturday. Malcolm showed up early, worked without complaint, didn't mention the house going to Haven House. Talia directed traffic with the efficiency of someone who'd learned to organize at the shelter. Even Aunt Bernice came, bringing sandwiches and sharp commentary about better late than never. My new apartment was small but bright. One bedroom, a living room with good light, a kitchen just big enough for one person who cooked for many. It faced east toward the sunrise, toward Haven House, toward the future. That night, in my new space with boxes still unpacked, I lit a candle. Not for them, not for what was lost, but for what was found. For the women at Haven House who'd become my sisters. For Talia slowly earning her way back. For Malcolm finally learning to stand. For myself finally learning to stop waiting by windows. The candle flickered, casting dancing shadows on bare walls. I thought about that Thanksgiving, about the pie nobody ate, about the silence that had seemed so cruel. Now I understood it was a gift. Their rejection had freed me to find my real family. Their cruelty had pushed me to find my voice. My phone buzzed. A message from a woman in Ohio who'd seen the post. Her family had just excluded her from Easter. She wanted to know how to survive it. You tell the truth, I typed back. You find your people. You stop waiting for invitations to tables where you're not welcome. You build your own table. And then you feast. She thanked me, called me brave. But I wasn't brave. I was just done being afraid of other people's opinions mattering more than my own dignity. Listen, if you've made it this far with me, if you've walked this journey of hurt and healing, I need you to know something. Your story matters. Your pain is valid. Your choice to stop accepting crumbs when you deserve the whole feast is not just right. It's necessary. Share this story with someone who needs it. Subscribe if you want to hear more truths that need telling. Comment with your own story, because every woman waiting by a window needs to know she's not alone. And remember, family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when the showing up is hard. It's about who sees you when being seen is all you need. It's about who chooses you again and again, especially when choosing you costs them something. I'm Ruth Langley. I'm 77 years old now. I volunteer at a shelter for forgotten women. I have tea with my granddaughter who's learning to be better. I'm watching my son learn to stand up straight for the first time in his life. I live in a small apartment that's filled with peace instead of a big house filled with waiting. And this Thanksgiving, I'll be at Haven House, serving pie to women who understand that sometimes the best family is the one you choose. The table will be full. The gratitude will be real. And nobody will be forgotten. Not anymore. Not on my watch. Not ever again. Thank you for listening to my story. Now go write your own. Stop waiting by the window. Start living in the light. You matter. You always have. Even when they forgot to tell you. Especially then. The truth will set you free. But first, it might just save your life.